I have the camera.
Oh, where's the snack?
Have you ever done this
now
before?
he's gonna do the crunchy snacks.
Yeah, go ahead. Interrupt the live stream. We're literally live right now.
I grabbed it before you started.
So typically you want to look in the eye of the camera.
Okay.
Have you ever you may want to mute that. This is the funniest thing ever, guys. So welcome to The Mic is Listening. My name is Sia, and today's episode is completely different, outside the norm. We're actually off-site right now, whooping it up in the wonderful town of Oklahoma City. And I probably shouldn't put my hand on the table as it's moving around right now, but I've got a special guest today. We're kind of changing it all up and having a lot of fun, but I'm thrilled to welcome my wonderful niece, Katelyn. KT. Woo! Welcome, KT.
Thank you.
So, yeah, long story short is the regular person canceled. So I said, who wants to be with me on a live stream? Absolutely zero people volunteered in my family. So what do? You force them on to join. Isn't that the best thing ever?
Well, I think I tried forcing someone else, and now I'm here. So
yeah, well, it's what we do. It's what we do in our family. We like to challenge ourselves, right? So how many times on LinkedIn do we say, reach out, get out of your comfort level and try something new? And guess what I just did? I just dragged, you know what? You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, but here's why I actually asked Katelyn to join me. And I thought I created I could have sworn I did. There we go. KT Woo, Dive Master Extraordinaire.
Hello.
So the reason why I asked KT to join us today is because she is a Zellenial, technically right in between, the cusp between Generation Z and Millennials. And on my other podcast, Gnaw On This, Business Bites, Ben Baker and I talked about, communication with multi-generational workplaces, as well as just the whole idea of having multi-generational workforce in place right now. And so I talked to her about it. She had some very interesting thoughts and perspectives on what she thinks it is as she's entered the workforce. She's worked in both corporate environment as well as in a small, I would say SMB, entrepreneurial pursuit. So we'll talk about her and her dive master coolness of it all. But she does have corporate experience. She's done some corporate sales, some operational stuff, and she's also done retail. We'll talk about that a little bit. Because it's such a common path when you're starting on your own career to, put your toe in the door in like different ways to make money. So KT, I think I said welcome already, but welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Okay. So I know I'm your auntie, but let me ask you this, because now that you've entered the workforce and you, like I said, you've kind of experienced different things. Are you seeing something that is inspiring you to kind of put your foot in the door and trying different things? Because you're a dive master right now. Mm-hmm. You're a leader in a leadership role for this organization. I guess, wait, stop. Hold up. What's a dive master?
So a dive master, how I like to explain it, it's the first level. So first off, dive mastering, it involves scuba diving. If no one knows what that means, and or dive master. And dive master is the first level of professionalism. So I would like to explain I'm more of a student teacher, so I help out with classes, and sometimes I do one-on-one classes with students and helping them succeed in getting their open water certifications. So I'm working on my assistant instructor, so I can actually take charge in that role of teaching students and kind of spreading that passion of exploring the ocean. That's what I am right now. And I got into dive mastering because I snorkeled in Thailand, found out I was afraid of the ocean. 5 months later, I kind of had, I don't know what hit me, but I kind of just said, screw it. I'm going to go see the bottom of the ocean. And I got my open water certification, ended up falling in love with it, finished up my degree because I only had a semester left, and found a job in scuba diving so I can actually be near people who are in the same things that I like. And it's been great because they've offered me a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. And so here's what I thought was funny, because, as an aunt, I worry about, the children and their future. And I don't have kids. So, congratulations to all my 10 nieces and nephews. They get default, a second mom, if you will. Crazier version of their own real moms. But what what I was worried about for you was because you start off in a career, you actually got a corporate job, you worked at a great organization, and then you're like, I got my degree, auntie, I got it, international business. I'm just gonna, make some money and work in a retail place, which was not a bad place. I was like, ooh, yeah, spa, hook an auntie up.
So on the topic of spa, I got into that job because I was in college. It paid more money. I know nothing about skincare or like self-care. So that position was difficult for me because I don't really wear makeup and people would come and be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, I like that one. It smells good.
Yeah, no, you're like me, you're basic.
Yeah, I was like, oh, like, do you do this? Like, what's your routine? Like, how's your skin so clean? Or, I mean, a couple years ago, and I was like, I just chug water. That was
Water
it.
is key, man. But I think that's you've always had a bit of a healthier mentality too, and I think at least what I see is I often see the newer generations, maybe because you're in your 20s, you're a little bit more cognizant of your health, I guess, or maybe because you're younger, you have that, I don't know, drive to really take good care of yourself. Because once you start getting your 40s, let me tell you, man, everything falls apart. If you haven't developed that habit of self-care, both mentally and physically, I don't think my generation really cared as much about it as much as yours do. Do you think technology and the Instagramification of our culture and society has promoted more of a healthier lifestyle with your generation, or do you think it's full of crap?
I think overall, yes, of course, because it's easily available. You can just swipe and you're like, oh, okay, healthy but lifestyle. And you're like, oh, everyone else is doing it because they want to look healthier, they want to feel better. And I also say, I look at my parents. I'm like, if I just
Ouch, that hurts. When she says she looks at her parents, I feel very attacked. It's like because I'm your mom's sister, So, but your mom's outdoorsy though. Your mom's very
Yeah,
outdoorsy.
absolutely. And it's not that I think that the older generation worked on like, okay, I'm gonna create a better future. I'm gonna work hard. I'm just gonna hustle, hustle, hustle. That they kind of neglect what the little things are of like, oh, maybe you should skip out on the fast food and eat a salad every so often.
That reminds me of dinner last night. They're like all eating healthy. I'm like, I'll take a steak with beans. Yeah, no, but but it is true. Um, like, yeah. So let me ask you this because I don't think you had the same upbringing on me. So when I grew up, literally, I was a latchkey generation. So basically, at the age of like 10 years old, I was walking by myself all over town and like walking myself home from school and literally having a key to let myself in through the door while people were out and about working. Did you have that experience with your mom and dad?
Yes and no. I would say we were able to go outside and walk to our friend's house, and but a lot of times we were driven around to kind of be like, okay, you're going here, you're going there. And I don't know, I've always heard that your kids are going to be 2 times worse than you are. So maybe my mom was like, I'm going to drive you. And I would like to say that because of my mistakes, I've become a fairly lovely woman now.
Dude,
In my
she was
opinion.
the worst. She was the absolute worst as a teenager. Oh my gosh. But you know what though? Miss Sassafras, at least you could back up your sassafrasness. But it was frustrating at times, no lie. So okay, so do you think your generation has more sense of adventure and risk taking?
Yes and no. I feel, and I think what has, so a thing that's been challenging in my leadership role right now is that I have a younger, we get like summer internships that are like 15, 16 years old. And I think they are definitely more adventurous. They want to do more things, but sometimes when it comes to problem solving, they're very black and white. And you kind of stare at them and that curiosity is gone. And so like the sense of risk is like, yeah, they'll do it because they're out of boredom and that's like what they only think that they can do because they're in this black and white given scenario, I guess you could say, in terms of like when they actually work. So maybe they're more adventurous in their free time, but when they work time, it's not as adventurous. So I have to try to figure out how to engage them. And what I say is create a baby. So I'll give them a project, or I'll not allow them. I push them, encourage them to create something that I'm like, hey, what do you think is going to work better here? And I call it that their baby, because that's something that they're actually going to focus on, put more attention to it and effort into it, into making it successful. But then sometimes if it's out of that realm, it's like, boosh.
Oh yeah, no. You were talking about this the other day of, like, because you're a little bit older for Gen Z, but you've got cousins and I've got nieces and nephews that are definitely in the Gen Z generation, and I find it fascinating because it's they're younger, they're inexperienced. But do you think they're curious? Do you think you're curious? Do you think your generation's curious?
I think absolutely we are curious in discovering what makes us happy, what pushes us, but I think our attention span, because of social medias or any technology, has shortened. So our curiosity doesn't really flourish in the sense of like, okay, let's go out and discover, unless you have that personality drive. But it's very like 6 seconds, or I don't know, I don't have TikTok or anything, but however long those videos are, and then it's like, okay, next, and that's their curiosity window. So I would say we do still have curiosity, but very short, not enough to explore in depth of it.
Oh, girl. Okay, now you bring up something that I find fascinating then, because you're not like the stereotypical. Bless you. You're not the stereotypical. When we think of like a millennial Gen Zer, because you're not huge into social media, are you?
I would say
And why not? Or are?
So we were actually talking about this the other day, where I was 100% like scrolling through social medias, and like sometimes I still do, but I don't like to post too much, because I think it got in my head where I was like, oh, I'm wanting more likes. I want to be noticed. I want to be the person, the pretty person on Instagram or whatever. And I stopped doing that, just because my mental health for that was kind of deteriorating, and I just got sad, and I would, stalk people and being like, oh, well, they're happy. And I think during that transition of jumping into my fear of open water for scuba diving, kind of opened that door, or like kicked it down, however Spartan kicked it down, of like, don't focus too much on other people, and because honestly you grow up and people don't care, and then just focus on like what really makes you happy.
Oh, I love that. So speaking of what makes people happy in life, you guys, I just want you to know how bad ass my niece is, okay? Because I think we forget generationally. And you guys, tell me if you agree or disagree on this. Is especially maybe as we get older, we get more sense of responsibility because life happens, right? We've got family that we have to hold accountable. We've got aging parents that we have to hold, each other accountable for. So here's just a friendly reminder of how amazing and why I love my niece so much. Can you explain a little bit about this picture for me?
So recently I went to Iceland I will say the important part is I went to Iceland for my stepsister's wedding, but I got to do a pretty neat scuba diving adventure. And I will say a lot of people are jealous because it's a bucket list thing to do, and it's a dive between the tectonic plates. So I can't say which one's Eurasia or the North American plates, but I am able to touch it. And here's the picture. The water is unbelievably clear. It tastes amazing. And here I am. This is not my entire kit, but if you look close enough, I have a little mustache.
That's so cool. So okay, so you don't know if you're facing north or south, is my guess, or whatever, because what I'm saying is you don't know which side is which.
Correct. Mm-hmm. I can't remember which side. It was a quick little briefing, and we were like, okay, gear up and jump in.
Okay, so you're literally stuck between two freaking tectonic plates. Mm-hmm. Like at one point that was connected, and that was Pangea. So is there any fear that they could smush and shift while you're down there?
So they're actually expanding. So every year they go by, I probably like an eighth of an inch or something like that. So a huge joke when I was telling everyone I was doing this is that, are you even going to reach? Because I'm a little shorter. But so yeah, they're actually expanding. So I wouldn't be worried about becoming a mountain.
Well, but hi, rocks can still fall.
Yes, absolutely. So it's on national property or national park. So you actually can't go to the bottom where rocks will fall. So you're kind of hovering between 50 or 5 to 30, 40 feet.
Okay, so the reason why I think it's so freaking cool is look how clear and pristine that water is. Like that is so badass. That is so. And when you said the water tastes good, I'm sorry, girl, talk to me because typically people don't like say they want to touch or drink or taste ocean water. So why is that different?
So I guess once you know a little bit more about scuba diving, is like, oh, you drank the water, because let's be real, a lot of people pee in their wetsuits, and no one's peeing in their wetsuits here because we're in dry suits, which is a different setup for colder water, like 40 degrees to be precise. This water is clear from, like, you can read it on Google or what have you, is that it's being filtered through those rocks. And I mean, they're kind of, it goes out into a lake, but that lake doesn't really push back in. So it's mainly going outwards. There's a camera outwards. So I guess like just drinking the water, it was one of the things. It's like, oh, if you're comfortable, drink the water. And
Dude, okay, so you want to hear something stupid that I did? And I know now that I really think about it, it probably wasn't one of my more genius ideas, but they should have been offered to me because you know me, if someone offers me a chance to try something, I'm like, yeah, I'll try it once. So we were up in Alaska and we were on a cruise, we didn't do a cruise, we just did a boat trip, like a day trip, and we were looking at one of the glaciers, and they had like floating ice from the glacier, and so of course they scooped it all up, and so the boat people were like, and we want a chip of the ice, and I was like, yeah, I'll try it. I'm like, put in my ginger ale and whiskey drink. Let's go for it. I figured the whiskey would kill it, right? Whatever's in there. And so I drank it, and like everyone's looking at me, and they're like, "You're an idiot." And I'm like, "Dude, how often do you have the ability to say I'm drinking like 14 million year old ice or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Never mind the bacteria and God knows what I just ingested and put in my body, and you know those things like might get they have proven these like little bacterial things like are dormant, and then also they get reactivated again in warmer temperatures. So anyways, I drank it again, thinking the whiskey might kill everything, and about 30 minutes later, my throat started like being sore a little bit, and I was like, "Rut-row." Probably not one of my wiser decisions in life.
Yeah.
So, well, so did your throat like hurt or anything?
No,
like that?
it was so, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just pure and refreshing. And I mean, Iceland, there's a lot of like active volcanoes, so I mean, like maybe that's helping out with flushing it up. And I mean, it's very cold water right there, and all of Iceland in general had very good water.
So let me ask you this, because I think one of the reasons why I actually wanted and I was excited to have you on, not because you're my niece and I really wanted to tease you a little bit more, but realistically speaking, the audience that listens here are all business folks, but we all crave adventure. We all kind of want to break the monotony of our lives. So let's say I'm interested, like I'm like that picture has inspired me, and I'm like I'm all for that. How does one get scuba certified to be able to do a dive something of that caliber, and or maybe more casual, maybe out in the I don't know, Bahamas somewhere?
That's where a lot of people tend to go when they think of diving. They're like, oh, tropical, in my bikinis or what have you. But as you get into diving, you see something like Iceland, and you're like, that looks cool. And then there's some like I will say, as I've learned a little bit more about diving, is you want to go to the cold water because that's where all the shipwrecks are and the history, and it's just being preserved under just like sometimes pressure ruins it a little bit, but it's being preserved a little bit, and it's much colder water. So how to get there, like what my company that I work with, we do for open water, just basic open water, you go about 60 feet. We just have like a 4-day thing where you do orientation, you do a full day at pool, and then you go out into open water to apply all the skills that you learn in the pool, and then you're certified. If you want to go deeper and just learn more about different gases and how to navigate a little bit more thoroughly and go deeper in the effects of depth.
I was like, death. I'm like, well, we don't want to do that.
The effects of depth. Then you can go into advanced open water and, of course, climb that ladder. So in this picture, all they require is the basic certification as well as dry suit certified. Dry suit, I describe it as a fitted trash bag. I mean, they use different material, but if you're not used to all those terminologies and material wise, it's like a pretty trash bag that makes that keeps most of your body dry. And you can like layer it like with ski layers or any other layers. So I'm like wearing sweats, leggings, I think a t-shirt, another shirt, and another shirt. Just whatever weather you wear in 40 degrees underneath that suit right now. And on the website it says that you have to have 10 logged dry suit dives because dry suit it's another bubble. So you have your BCD, which stands for buoyancy control device, and that is a backpack that sorry, and that is a backpack that helps you with your buoyancy. So that's an air pocket. You have a dry suit, which is like a Michelin bubble. So if you inflate it entirely, you'll look like a Michelin
Michelin man.
Michelin man, and that it can be dangerous because you don't want to ascend too quickly because then that can cause injuries. And then of course your lungs are another. So you have 3 bubbles instead of 2 bubbles, and so I mean that's the only thing is like to have experience in adjusting to those bubbles to make sure you empty it out or inflate it so you're not sinking, you're not having a increased ascent, so no injuries. So not, I know it sounds intense.
You went hella technical, girl. All I was trying to do is get you promoted, like to say, hey, I want to go with Katelyn because you know why you do tours. You actually run tours, right?
Yeah.
So talk to me about Honduras because you were just out in Roatan, and
so overall it's not that hard to get certified.
Yeah, it's not that hard. Yeah. So if I want to go like maybe a corporate retreat, like leadership, like go like learn how to scuba together, or if you guys are all scuba certified, you can scuba together.
Mhm.
Is that something that you can put together? Like, I think you mentioned what destinations are you guys looking at, and tell me why you can't take everyone right now.
So our shop tends to go to Roatan, Honduras a ton. It's an easy place to go, and it's easy for new divers because some locations, what if the wave is a little too heavy or if it's a little darker and you just don't want to put a new diver in that situation. So we go to Roatan all the time, and our upcoming trips are Thailand, Belize, and then 2024 we're trying to do a liveaboard in the Galapagos. So Thailand, after I told everyone about my story, I was like, oh, I started in Thailand. I think it's amazing to do like a full circle, like, I'm finally certified. And now I'm in that professional stage where I can start bringing people to give them like little tours or anything. And right now for our Thailand list, we haven't confirmed dates, but we have a long waiting list where I think we're trying to do 2 weeks in Thailand. I don't know if we'll extend it to 3 weeks just so we can fit all those people that want to come and join us. And the Belize, I'm not too sure about, but in New Mexico, we have a blue hole. It's a natural water reserve, and in Belize there's also another blue
Big old
hole, right? And so a lot of people tend to be like, "Oh, I want to go to all the blue holes," or what have you.
So I mean, okay, so like that I think is really cool, and I think that's something that we don't really talk about though. Like to me, scuba diving is such a talk about risk. Like you're taking a risk. You're kind of going into you're out of your comfort zone. Like anyone that knows me, I almost drowned my boyfriend snorkeling out in Oahu because I freaked out because I saw a beautiful turtle swimming like 20 feet below. It's not the water I'm afraid of; it's the things living in there that I'm afraid of. But so how do you overcome that? Because I mean, literally got into like a fit of laughter and I couldn't stop it. It was like a nervous trigger that I just started laughing.
Yeah, that's exactly why I was nervous of open water. So when I initially started, I was snorkeling, saw the fishes. I also didn't have a prescription mask, so maybe everything was a little bit more distorted than usual. But I saw the fishes and the creatures down below while I was snorkeling, and I don't know, that the fear of whatever's underneath the water is what terrified me. And in my mindset is the solution is, oh, well, just go down there and hang out with them, be closer to them, be more personable with them, and then it's better than being vulnerable at the top.
Yeah. No, that's okay. So do you think then some of the chore that you give, sorry guys, if you hear that, that's my dad in the background. Sorry. So if you are doing these tours and running these tours, what would you say the average age is that's embracing this?
Honestly, we have a variety of people. I will say the older generation, just because, I have a little bit more money for the resorts. It's a little easier for them to come by, but if the kids are lucky, they get to come too. So we have ages between 6 or 15. You can get certified at the age of 10. Yeah, so that's the youngest one, but at age of 10, you can't go as deep to 60. It's usually about 45. So age of 10. So I think the youngest person that we've had at trips is maybe 13, and then it goes up to like 70.
So do you think you have to be certified so everyone understands the process and all that stuff, but who learns faster?
That's very difficult. So like I said earlier, with the term of decreasing attention span, and I think it doesn't even have to affect like on technology and social medias, but kids, they're learning things. So sometimes being like, hey, this is an important skill, please
you have to like, hello,
please come back.
come back.
Yeah, but also in scuba diving, people don't realize how physical it is. So what I like to say, I say think fish, be fish. And I say right now we're land breathing because we're using our noses. And when we go underwater, we have to become like water breathers because we use our mouths. And a lot of people, it's hard to just breathe out of your mouth. And all of a sudden you're underwater and you're told not to go up whenever you can. And you're also being taught like, okay, while you're breathing underwater, please adjust your buoyancy with your air. Like, here's push this button. And sometimes that's overwhelming for the older generation. So to say who learns faster, I would say it just depends on the person's ability to quickly multitask.
Oh, well, this is yet another reason why I am not made for scuba diving.
Yeah, because we have older people and they're like, wait, I can only do one skill at a time. Please demonstrate it one time right before we do it, one time 5 minutes before. And sometimes with kids, you're like, hey, you can't just be like, and like play around. Like, this isn't a playing sport. I suggest don't play around in your first open water. And then once you get a little bit more comfortable in your gear or like just your own breathing, because that's your buoyancy, then you can start doing a little bit more experimental things.
You just gave me an idea, and I forgot to ask about this because this was supposed to be about generations, but I got excited about talking about scuba diving. Do you ever get pushback being so young with some of your older clients?
Yes. I also sometimes get pushback, especially being a female, because sometimes they're like, oh, you're so small. And I look kind of young, where some of my coworkers thought I was graduating high school or barely 20. And then I tell them I'm 25 and they're very surprised. So sometimes like being a female, especially with carrying tanks.
Yeah. I'm like, that's a good problem to have, girl. Trust me. Enjoy it.
Yeah. So sometimes with carrying gear, they're like, oh, let me help you. And I'm like, I can do it. Like, I'll just lug it like a 45-pound tank on my shoulder. I'm like, back off.
Yeah.
But pushback being younger, sometimes people who want to refresh their certifications and they did the older. So as education and learning scuba diving has changed, it used to be a little bit militarized. So it was like, okay, you have to do this, you have to carry this, you have to go get your gear and like hold your breath and blah, blah, blah. And it's not that hard anymore. So some people were like, oh, I did it 30 years ago, so we had to do all of these things. Like, we're not doing it anymore. I'm like, yeah, no, it's different now. And they'll not necessarily know-it-alls, but I get that that's what they're comfortable with. That's the knowledge they were taught, and having to change that, like with any habits, having something new is a little bit more difficult to understand.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that because, I mean, we could talk more about this, later on, and guys. So, I mean, I kind of threw her literally like 20 minutes before we were supposed to go live. So we really kind of just threw this together. So thank you so much, KT, for joining and being a good sport about it. So, I really do want to promote you because I do know that you guys are looking to launch more tours and whatnot. How can they get a hold of you to learn more? Because even though you're based in Albuquerque, it's not like you're stuck in Albuquerque, which I think, by the way, there is a blue hole in Albuquerque. It's a natural
Water
hole,
reserve.
or natural cenote, right?
Mhm.
Or what?
Yeah,
Is it
people are like,
cenote
oh,
or-
it's like a cenote or
Cenote?
something like that. But it is a natural water.
Okay, yeah. So there is water in Albuquerque. That's all I'm saying. Because when she first told me I'm learning how to scuba dive in New Mexico, and I'm like, in a pool, like, so I didn't know. So
No.
I want to properly apologize to the state of New Mexico. I am sorry because I was talking some smack earlier in another broadcast. So, but how for those that want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
So always on LinkedIn. I think my name is Katelyn T Woo under LinkedIn. So just expand the K on that KT, Katelyn, or the scuba company, which is Albuquerque, New Mexico, and that's the shop that I work with. And so they've offered me a lot of opportunities where I can always contract with them. And so wherever I am, if that's like an easy base, and then they can just call me and say, hey, I want KT or something like that. And I can definitely be there for trips.
Dude, I'm kind of envious of you because you get to see the world and do something that you're loving and passionate about, which has absolutely nothing to do with international business, but maybe it does. Oh, maybe it does. Real quick, why would it matter your international business degree with your scuba diving?
Well,
business?
of course, with international business, you have to understand the business between. So we do contact and we set up dive trips. You don't have to be a diver all the time. We have people who just bring their grandma or
or aunties that might just sit
snorkeling,
there.
and absolutely. So we have to understand what's going on in the climate, and like definitely with traveling lately, just understanding like, hey, what business deals. I mean, you do have to like make sales and deals with the resorts to be like, hey, do you mind us buying your resort out for 20 some people or what have you, or whatever?
No, that's, I mean, in essence, because you're really just making it click, right? Point and click, like this is the experience I want, and then you guys put it all together and make it happen. So if anyone's interested in that, what's the name of your dive shop again?
The Scuba Company.
And if you happen to like a lot of their marketing stuff, like you're a big fan of promoting random holidays. So wait, I know we're over time, but I do have to just promote this because she was working on it this morning or yesterday, and I was like, Chocolate Milk Day, what the hell? But okay, so you're gonna see a promo on Happy Chocolate Milk Day, and there's a reason why it should matter for scuba diving people. So just real quick, because I thought it was fascinating.
Oh, so if you ever look on like Facebook or Instagram for the Scuba Company, I'm very random, I guess you could say. I saw chocolate milk because we have a compressor and it filters out the air. So we make sure that we have clean air for our students and ourselves, because while you're at pressure, any little bits of remnants of any toxins of air could affect you while you're diving. And you'll learn more when you get your open water certification. But when we drain our condensate from our compressor, it looks like chocolate milk. It's disgusting, especially when you shake it. I mean, I don't know why we shake it, but we do. And it looks like chocolate milk. So that just reminded me of National Chocolate Milk Day.
So her little marketing campaign is hilarious. I won't go into it too much, but apparently as a scuba diver, you want to drink your chocolate milk. You don't want to be breathing it.
Yeah.
So on that note, KT, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The scuba shop guys out of New Mexico, hit them up if you're curious, if you want to do a corporate group trip or you're yourself with your family. Really, I mean, I just absolutely love what you're doing, and I just want to cheer you to success. So as always, I do have to do my own brand promotion just to make sure everyone understands. So real quick, coming up, we have the Global Leaders Organization Dallas. If you are based in Dallas, join us August 31st. We do have our special guest speaker is Justin Forsett, former NFL, as well as founder of Hustle Clean. And if you're interested in learning more about GLOW, it's all about community, commerce, capital content. Ask us what that means, Aaron Greger and myself. And of course, I'd be remiss not to promote my own damn business, people. Innovation Media Enterprises. We produce people's podcasts and digital content. So everyone has a story to tell. KT, case in point today. So what we do is consult, strategize, production, and marketing for your digital content. If you have questions, feel free to hit me up. My name is Sia. This is Katelyn Woo, KT. And I guess that will wrap it up for another episode of The Mic is Listening, guys. See you till next week.
Thank you.
Oh, and